Today I'm going to be taking a look at your controversial Adventure Time hot takes. I recently had a bunch of you submit on a forum or in my Discord a bunch of Adventure Time hot takes, and I'm going to be taking a look at all of them and just giving my thoughts on them and deciding if it is true to the show, if it should have been taken away, if it should have been added, if a character was really good, if a character was really bad. Whatever your hot take is, I'm going to be talking about it today. And if you enjoy videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe and make content about regular show, Adventure Time, Gumball, movies, and other TV shows, and I have plenty of good stuff on the way. So without further ado, let's look at your stuff and see if it's truthful or full of shit. And starting us off, we have the Grass Demon had one of the greatest potentials as a villain, but he really had a small amount of screen time. He could have been one of the greatest foes for Finn and Fern. He was menacing, mysterious, and he had a meticulous presence. The fact that we never learned his backstory is kind of sad. I mean, we kind of know his backstory. We know that the Grass Wizard imbued his power into the Grass Sword, and then when Finn eventually got the Finn Sword and used his Finn arm because Bandit Princess stole the sword and it got clashed, and it imbued the Grass Demon's presence, his essence, his soul, into Finn's sword, creating Fern. And I truly think that we were supposed to get a lot more stuff with this, because as the seasons went on, we just kept getting more and more and more lore for the Grass Demon, all this stuff with Fern, Fern slowly turning evil. But you also have to take into consideration the fact that Season 9 and Season 10 are extremely rushed, because there was initially going to be a way longer Season 10 with a completely different finale, and Season 9 was supposed to have the finale that we got anyway, but then they just canceled Adventure Time out of the blue for no reason, one of the big three shows that you could possibly have, because let's make more Teen Titans Go, yay! Yeah, it was just kind of stupid. So everything in Season 10 is extremely rushed. That's why it's only 14 episodes. That's why Season 9 just kind of ends out of the blue. That's why it's just feeling super rushed. That's why every storyline that they wanted to focus on got a little bit rushed to do that massive ultimate conclusion for the finale. And I believe if we got a full Season 10, there would have been a slow build to it with a lot more stuff with the actual Grass Demon, instead of just little peeks into like the mind of Fern and slowly seeing him turning evil. I think we would have gotten a lot more build to that, and I honestly wish we did. So I'm going to agree with you here. I wish we did get to see a lot more of a backstory for the Grass Demon, or at least his reasons for doing what he's doing. He's evil. Actually make him feel like a villain instead of just this evil presence that's controlling Fern. Hot take 2. The Lich becomes a less compelling villain in the end. Don't get me wrong, I love the Lich and the voice acting, and his lines are unparalleled, but I personally am off-put by the reveal the Lich dedicated his life to evil because he wanted Golb's admiration. I liked him more when the Lich was just pure evil and there didn't need to be a reason. And I honestly agree with you in some ways. I think having a villain that isn't like, oh, I had such a bad childhood, so I want to wipe out everything so everybody will be proud of me and fear me because I need to be feared. I like villains that don't have a rhyme or a reason. The Lich was just pure death, just going around extinguishing all life, no matter what the cost, scheming. He was intelligent, he was powerful, he was everything you could possibly want in a villain that didn't need this entire backstory all about him. But then you have the Fiona and Cake version of the Lich, which I feel like in order for you to enjoy, you have to separate it from the Lich that we get in the 10 seasons of Adventure Time, because he's very different. He is the one version of the Lich that actually succeeded in his goal of extinguishing all life. And with that, it made him depressed because he extinguished everybody in the entire universe. He was a being without a goal anymore. He was a being without anything to do. And when you factor in the fact that he is a scholar of Golb, he should have gotten something in return for that. He should have felt satisfaction. He should have gotten some form of admiration. Maybe Golb would have sent him to a different universe. But he was just a being with no purpose for 30 years, just sitting there dormant, doing nothing. I feel like I kind of tried to look at it in a more optimistic way, to where he was just sitting there dormant, and the reason he didn't kill Fiona, Cake, or Ice King was just because there was no point, because he had already killed them all, so why would he bother killing them if it wasn't going to change anything? And he was dormant until he saw that he could go and talk to Golb and figure out what was next for him to do, which is what he's talking to Golb about. He's just like, what more could I have done? I just feel like they could have taken it in a different way, where it makes the Lich seem like he wants to travel to a different universe to do the same thing. He wants to go and seek more universes to extinguish all life everywhere, to prove to himself that he's accomplished this, instead of just making his primary goal admiration from Golb. I feel like that did take away a little bit of his character, but I still enjoyed it. I just feel like I had to separate the Fiona and Cake version of the Lich from the Lich that we got in the original 10 seasons, because they're very different from each other. One succeeded, one didn't, and the one that didn't succeed is by far a way better character, just because he's just the embodiment of death, and I enjoy that. I like that a lot more, but I do think that trying to give Lich this entire complex character and giving him a little bit more interest was a very cool concept to go down. I just wish that they handled it a little bit differently. Flame Princess and Finn should have got back together and stayed together, and I guess if you're like, into like those shipping things and you just love putting characters together and you spend the entire series just hoping and praying that they'll stay together, then sure. I mean, if you wanted them to get back together, that's whatever. But I feel like if they got back together, that would have taken away from the entire lesson that Finn learned from his mistake. Because the thing that he did to Flame Princess was so heinous and so horrible just because Jake and the Cosmic Owl were just pressuring him to go and do this horrible thing to his girlfriend. And he goes through with it, manipulating her, making her feel like shit, making her fight a random guy that she barely even knew. She didn't know Ice King at all at that point. And so just making her go out of her way to go in this epic brawl. Yes, it makes for good, visually stunning fights for Finn to watch, but overall it's just a really horrible thing to do. And then you have seasons later when he finally actually apologizes, and I love that they don't actually just rush that. They don't make it a like follow-up episode, a season episode where it's just, oh, let's just apologize and I haven't actually learned anything. They took the time to build it up and have Finn grow up into a better person, and I enjoyed that a lot more. But at that point in the series, FP was with Cinnamon Bun, which was always a very weird pairing to me. But either way, Flame Princess was doing her own thing and Finn was doing his own thing. I don't think they should have gone back together because that wouldn't have made sense for their characters at that point to just be like, oh, Finn apologized, let's just start dating again. I think Billy pre-possession was criminally underutilized. Considering the impact his death had on Finn, I know Billy was absolutely Finn and Jake's idol, but his first interaction with them in His Hero is the only episode he appears in before he's possessed by the Lich. I think if he had more on-screen interactions with the brothers before his death was revealed, Finn and Jake's reactions would have been a lot easier to relate to. And I completely agree with this because when Billy died, you didn't feel any connection to this guy. You didn't really care that he died. You were still shocked what was happening on your screen because it was honestly so graphic, especially for Adventure Time at that time. We hadn't seen anything like that graphic in the show, that crazy in the show, an actual death like that. I mean, the Lich literally skinned Billy and wore his skin. Yeah, that's really messed up, but either way, we didn't get to see anything from Billy. The one episode that he's actually in, it doesn't even show him as being all that great. He's just depressed the entire time, and he's like, guys, please stop being heroes. Please stop being heroes. It's not worth it. And then Finn and Jake convince him that hero work is actually good, and Billy wants to go out and do hero work. I wish we got to see him in maybe one or two more episodes leading up to his inevitable death, because it's season 1. The ending of season 1 is when we get to meet Billy and he's just depressed the entire time. And then season 4, when we actually get to see that he's been possessed by the Lich, and then Billy never comes back. He comes back as a, like, in the stars when he's telling Finn about his father. But that's it. That's all there is to Billy. I wish we got a lot more of him, because then his death could have been more impactful, and maybe they didn't want to go that route because, I mean, it was a kid show. They didn't really get to that serious tone of Adventure Time until the Lich episodes, where everything started to just get ramped up to 100. Everything became canonical. Everything was all pushing towards the same point. So I feel like, maybe they weren't thinking of that ahead of time. It was just like, oh, let's do this later on. And then when it does eventually happen, I do wish that we got more Billy episodes because it would have made it more impactful. But hey, I'm still happy with the stuff we got. Okay, last one. I could go on and on about Adventure Time anything, but Banana Man, the space dude, was such a wasted character for me. I never liked him. He was just kind of convenient for Finn and Jake here and there, but he never had any depth in my opinion. I don't give a shit what you say. I love Banana Man for one sole reason. Building a truck with the neighbors. Couldn't think of a better way to spend my time. I don't care. That one episode alone is all I need from Banana Man to make him one of my favorite characters in the entire show. I mean, they build a truck together and he sings a song about it. What else could you possibly want? And then the only other episodes I think he's in the like President Porpoise episode where they go down into the deep sea and he just falls in love with a fish. I mean, I don't know what you really expect from his character. He just is doing his own thing, enjoying life, just being that like average Joe good neighbor. I enjoy him. I didn't need anything more from him. Ice King is the most dynamic character, and I can agree with you on that. I think Ice King is the best written character in the entire show, and just the best character in general in the entire show. His character arc is just so amazing to watch, and it's technically watching the arc of two different characters just unfold right before you. I mean, you get to watch the Ice King start off as just this degenerate, this horrible person, willing to kidnap anyone just for a taste of some bubblegum, willing to do anything to kill anyone, and you get to watch even in this crazy form of himself, this crazy form of Simon Petrikov, that he eventually becomes a better person even as the Ice King, because everybody starts treating him better. Once Finn and Jake learn about his relation to Marceline and how as Simon Petrikov, he took care of her and nurtured her and tried to just help her throughout this horrible world back when it was literally just reduced to ash and there were monsters everywhere. Simon did everything, so it's just nice to see even Finn start only calling Ice King Simon after that. And slowly, Ice King himself starts to become a much better person, willing to help our good guys, not kidnapping princesses, and just being a good person. person. So we get to see a whole character arc specifically for Ice King, and then we also get an entire arc for Simon at the same time. We get to see just glimpses of Simon. Sometimes he returns in the episode about Betty. Sometimes we get to see him inside of the crown when they have to go in there, when Ice King is freaking out, when Betty is messing with all of it. And then we get all of the stuff in the finale where Simon gets to return, but he loses Betty when Betty merges herself with Golb, becoming Golb Betty. And then we get all of this stuff in Fiona and Cake, and genuinely, like, Fiona and Cake is good, but Fiona and Cake on their own, like, as characters, they were not my favorite thing. The main thing that really made me love that entire series was the entire arc for Simon, just having to deal with the loss of the one woman he loves, just traveling the multiverse, trying to figure out how to bring her back, and there is just nothing he could do, trying to do the dance to reveal the path in Grammy Passage, trying to summon Golb so that he could talk to Betty and get her back, and none of it works. And the one time he's finally given up and he's just helping Fiona and Cake, he actually gets to go and talk to Golb Betty about all of it. You get to learn about his past, how he made Betty not go and do what she wanted to do, and so they were together, but that inevitably led to him finding the crown and losing his mind. There's just so many layers to his story, and I love them all so much. I genuinely think he is the best character in the entire show, in Fiona and Cake and Distant Lands, and everything about Ice King and Simon Petrikov is just so incredible to watch, and it genuinely makes Adventure Time so good and makes Fiona and Cake a genuinely great follow-up show. Here's it. I think the deer from that one episode was underused and should have come back for one more episode. I think he's dead, man. I think he's fucking dead. Did you see what happened to him? He got 2 cinder blocks dropped on his head 2 times. Okay, so he's probably unconscious here, having major brain bleeding, and then they shoved him into the sewer, so he's unconscious, drowning. I think he's dead. What did you want him to come back and do? Just be like, gang, sugar. Because he literally is just a paraplegic now and just can't do anything. Is that the correct word? I don't know. But either way, I think he was just, dead, or just couldn't even physically walk. I think his life was just over after that point. I don't think he could have come back. I guess despite how much I love BMO, they are a character that tends to get really on my nerves. Sometimes it's cute and adorable, other times the exact same scenes are completely grating on me. I guess you could say BMO is a bit too childish for me, and I can completely see that. I think BMO has some really good episodes and then some really bad episodes. I think the one episode where he wants to be a cowboy and forces Jake to be a horse by feeding him sandwiches and goes to hunt Meow, I think that's a great example of a really good BMO episode. But there's a lot of episodes where BMO just would have been better as a side role with that same kind of plot, because I think BMO is one of those characters that genuinely works so well as a character that could just make a quick timey joke, just playing off how naive they are, just to make a silly, childish joke. I think it works really well for a lot of situations, but when you just keep making a ton of episodes all about BMO, it can get a little bit of the same and a little bit too childish, especially when BMO is in the main role. I think it's kind of some good here, some bad there, some really bad. I do think his Distant Lands, whole entire BMO episode, is actually pretty decent, but for the most part, I think BMO does just fit well as a side character, so I mainly agree with you. This will be long, but I think Tree Trunks and LSP are some of the worst characters in the show. I'll say that LSP has some funny moments, but most of the time, if she's on screen, I don't give a fuck. It's mostly insufferable, and I think I skip any episode she's the focus of, and I hate her harassment towards Finn is completely overlooked. Biggest example, Breezy. For Tree Trunks, it's much more of the same, but she also gives both one of the most annoying episodes, Dream of Love, and one of the most forgettable, Ring of Fire. I don't understand how people can have them in their top characters at all. And I don't know, I'm always kind of indifferent about these two because I kind of feel the same as you. I think LSP has some great episodes, like the one where her and Marcelina are in Breakfast Kingdom. I think that's a really good, solid episode focusing on LSP. I think Trouble in Lumpy Space is also really funny. She has some good episodes, so I think her main role in Elements was kind of dull for me because I didn't need that much LSP, but I think she's doing a good job. I think when she's used sparingly, she's pretty good. Murder Mystery episode, all that good stuff. It's just when she is the main role, in that one episode where she's trying to seduce Finn by wearing trash bag clothes and gets her lips all done and is just trying to seductively seduce Finn. I think that's okay, but that's one of the episodes where I'd be do I really need this? As for Tree Trunks, I also have episodes where I absolutely hate her so much because she's just so annoying, when they go in that haunted demented forest and she's just doing all these naive things putting stickers on a monster and doing all that stuff. I don't really like Tree Trunks in episodes like that. Dream of Love is also obviously going to be a very bad episode, although I will admit Mr. Pig hits those high notes in Dream of Love. I like Mr. Pig in that episode, but Tree Trunks is just I don't know, just sometimes she's like that granny old lady that you just don't care for and don't like, and I'm just not about it. Other times she's pretty good. I think the episode where it's like her going and like reliving her 3 past husbands, I think that's a good example of a Tree Trunks episode, but the majority of the time it's just like that was okay. Same with LSP, it's just like, that was okay. I would have probably preferred an episode about a different character, but I mean, for the most part, I'd say they're fine, not horrendous. What Princess Bubblegum did to Flame Princess was entirely warranted. She was a threat to her kingdom, so like a good monarch, wanted to subdue her. Y'all only took Flame Princess' side because Finn had a thing for her. And I don't know, it's kind of like a mixing of like the viewer's moral implications of things like, oh, Flame Princess is a person. Why would you do that? You're such a bad person, Princess Bubblegum. When she literally found this toddler walking through the forest, setting everything ablaze in a horrible fire. So it kind of would make sense that you're going to be like, this is a very obvious threat to the entire world. Maybe we should imprison her. So it kind of makes sense. Maybe you could have like, went a different way about it, about educating her about her powers and how to use them and not to set everything on fire, instead of putting her in a glass chamber for the majority of her life. Yeah, pretty horrible thing to do. I don't know, there's just a bunch of different ways to look at it. Like, yes, Princess Bubblegum was doing the right thing in order to protect her kingdom from a potential fiery threat, but also she could have been a better person and sought ways to make it so they didn't have to imprison a living being inside of a glass chamber. And then if you're also considering the episode where she tries to get rid of the fire giants by taking out their flame cores so that the kingdom just loses all of its flame, I think that is a genuine episode where Princess Bubblegum is being a horrible person, because it's very clear that Flame Princess is much more diplomatic than Flame King ever was. She could have actually talked to Flame Princess, figured something out, instead of trying to literally get rid of the entire kingdom. Yeah, it's really messed up. I think Princess Bubblegum showcases a lot of villainy throughout the entire show, and this was one of the most messed up things that she ever did, literally trying to kill off an entire, like, kingdom, an entire population, just because she was worried that they would eventually attack her, when Flame Princess was clearly being a better, more diplomatic person for the majority of the time. Yeah, it's a little bit messed up, but I understand why Princess Bubblegum is doing these things, but that doesn't make it morally okay, I guess. I'm happy we got together again, because the finale didn't feel Finn and Jake centered enough. I also don't like how the last season is all about Princess Bubblegum's family. I feel like we could have had a better villain at the end of the show. Like, imagine if Golb got more attention, like if he was a threat they knew he was coming but couldn't prepare for. And yes, I really love Together Again. I think that's one of the best entire like specials in all of Adventure Time, just seeing Finn and Jake in the afterlife coming together for one more final fight against the Lich again, against New Death again. It's honestly one of the best things to come out of the show. I love it so much. As for Gumball and his family being the final season villain, I think it's fine for what it is. I think it was a good thing to prepare for, a good, like, intelligent, menacing villain to prepare for. I think it was fine. I think a different villain could have maybe done better, but I honestly can't think of anybody else who could have replaced him. And if you want Golb to be the main villain, that would also just kind of be lame, because it's not like Golb's going to be plotting anything. It's not like they're going to be aware that he's coming. He's the embodiment of chaos. Maybe they could have, like, found a scroll or something that was like, Golb is going to come back on this day or something, and they have to just prepare for it. But I also feel like that would be lame, because the shock and surprise of Golb just appearing out of nowhere, Magic Man falling from the sky and just being like, we docked up for real, man, and then Golb just appearing and just causing chaos. I feel like that was shocking, that was intriguing, and that made the finale that much better. And Golb as a character, he wouldn't have given us anything if he was the actual main villain that entire series. It's not like he would have anything to say. He would just sit there being like a big old red baby that he is. He doesn't have any feelings. He doesn't have any like goals. His goal is literally just to cause chaos, kill everything, do whatever he's got to do, because he is just that. He's the embodiment of chaos. He's not going to be a character. He's not going to be a villain. You could like say he's like the Lich, but at least the Lich was able to talk and able to give you his thoughts and able to like come up with plans and strategic things to take over things, which made him a compelling villain. Golb wouldn't have done any of that. He would have just appeared one day, and that would have been the same exact thing that we got anyway. Hot take 4. More of the candy people should have had developed storylines and personalities like Cinnamon Bun, and even Starchy. The episodes about Root Beer Guy, come on, they're great, especially on rewatch. because looking back as a kid watching those episodes, they were very adult themes at play that went completely over our heads. I mean, yeah, the entire show kind of has all those adult themes just littered throughout that are a lot more enjoyable when you are an adult and you can enjoy all of those. As for like more candy people to get developed storylines, I would like to hear who you think deserves more storylines. Like what? Like Chocoberry? Like Mr. Cupcake? Like what? Do you want a day at the gym with Mr. Cupcake? I don't know. I think Starchy, Root Beer Guy, Captain Kernel Corn, I think they were all fine for like the stories we got for them. We got some stuff with Banana Guards. I don't know. There's really not any other candy people that I was very invested in and like had enough personalities to actually get me to want storylines. If you're saying that like those candy people should have had more unique personalities that would warrant like incredible unique storylines, then I would have been all for it, because I do agree that all the stuff with the Root Beer Guy was a lot of fun. The detective episode is really great. The one about cherry cream soda, finding Dirt Beer Guy, all that stuff, and Starchy like sleeping with cherry cream soda, all that stuff is really good. So if they decided to make more candy people have more stories, I would have been all for it, but I'm not really like clamoring for it, you know? Like I didn't feel like I needed it. Maybe if they had like built that up like from early seasons with them all having unique personalities, then maybe I would have wanted it a little bit more. I heard this from somewhere, but it's always been stuck in my mind. Cinnamon Bun struggled so much in the Candy Kingdom because he was undercooked. So when he goes into the Flame Kingdom, he cooks and he thrives. That's not really a hot take, it's more of a statement, but I would honestly agree. I mean, I would say, you know, if you're made of cinnamon and bun and dough and you're a little bit undercooked, which makes you act really stupid, and then you go to a place where everything is hot and you're even tapping the hottest thing there, then maybe you cook a little bit more and you become a little bit more intelligent, and that would make a lot of sense for his drastic character change. So yeah, I'm all for this theory. I don't think Princess Bubblegum becoming a villain would have been good. I mean, she has years of build-up for her relation with the other characters. I think it would ruin her a lot. And I would agree if it happened in the main show, it would have ruined her character and would have ruined a lot of plot lines with all of the different characters that she had relations to, because I think the character that she becomes by the end of the show is really good. I enjoy Princess Bubblegum. A lot of people hate her a lot because of her past deeds, but by the end of the actual show, I think she becomes a pretty good character. But when I was watching Fiona and Cake, one of the worlds that I was genuinely hoping that they were going to go to, and they kind of explore it with the like version of Princess Bubblegum that like has the Ice King curse and is crazy and is trying to capture that version of Simon. They kind of explored that, but I wanted a version where Princess Bubblegum never became a good person and continued on this like dictatorship monarch world where she just overtook the entire world and became a horrible tyrant like being. I was hoping for that episode when I was initially watching that show. I was praying for it because I would love to see a universe where Princess Bubblegum is the main villain. I know they kind of explored that, but I really wanted it to be like our version of Princess Bubblegum, but evil. I really wanted that. If they do a Fiona and Cake season 2 and it's all the multiverse bullshit once again, I would love if they explored a world that was just like that, because I know the creators know that the majority of the audience think Princess Bubblegum is pretty much evil and did so many horrible things throughout her entire life that just cannot be excused. I really hope that someday they explore a world in which Princess Bubblegum is the villain, but for our timeline, I'm just glad with the Princess Bubblegum that we got. In my opinion, the coming of Gold would have worked better as another season's ending and not the finale, and I kind of get what you're saying, but again, you have to factor in the fact that season 10 was supposed to be much longer, and season 9 was supposed to have that initial finale be with all that Gold stuff, and then season 10 was supposed to be something different. I've read that in a bunch of different places that that was the initial plan. That's why everything was rushed. That's why everything was a little bit crazy towards the end of the show, and none of it really got to be as long as it should have. So if Gold was the finale for season 9, and then we got another one with season 10, I feel like a lot of people would enjoy it a lot more, but I still think Gold worked really well. I mean, yes, it was a mix of Gumball and Gold there, all of this like two mixing battles, but I think what we got from Gold was really good, maybe a bit anticlimactic because the way that they fix it and finish it, which is Betty being able to wish herself into Gold, was just a little bit weird and felt a little bit out there and definitely wasn't what you were expecting to happen, but I still think it works really well and it ties really well into like the story they're going to tell in Fiona and Cake. So overall, I wouldn't take it away. I'm happy with what we got and I enjoyed it either way. Whilst watching the show, I always thought Simon/Ice King was frustrating to watch because of his lust for bubblegum, but looking back, I definitely think he's a good person because he at least has boundaries, unlike Finn, who keeps fumbling relationships hard like Mordecai in regular show. And I mean, I get what you're saying, but like Ice King didn't really have any boundaries or morals other than the fact that he didn't want to be a pedophile when Princess Bubblegum became a child. Other than that, he was willing to kill anybody, he was willing to do anything just to taste that sweet, succulent bubblegum. He was going to do anything. And then he eventually does become a better person because of his relationship with Marceline, his developing friendship with Finn and Jake, all of this stuff that genuinely makes him turn into into a good person by the end of the show. It's really enjoyable. It's one of the best arcs in the entire show. As for Finn, yeah, I always kind of found Finn to be kind of like the Mordecai of regular show. I still think Mordecai is much more of a simp and much worse than Finn, but in some episodes, Finn could definitely be fighting for that title for the biggest cartoon simp ever, especially in that one episode where I think they're going to like Lemon Grab's kingdom, and Finn is just trying to be all up on her, like trying to do everything, trying to be next to her, trying to do anything she wants, just at the snap of a finger, trying to earn her again. And this was like right after all the Flame Princess stuff, and I just found it so annoying because I didn't want Finn to act like this again. I didn't enjoy it. I'm so glad that Finn just eventually dropped all that just to be friends with Princess Bubblegum, because it was getting very simpy and very hard to watch when Finn would just have these episodes where he's just literally doing everything for her. Hot take, I think Gumball's arc as one of the last ones was kind of a letdown comparing to the previous ones like Fern, Elements, and Islands. Things felt kind of unserious with him. I think unserious is the wrong kind of word to use there. I think it was very serious. A character who was trapped for almost 1,000 years as a dumb version of himself, being forced to watch everything that you dreamed of and hoped for be achieved by another person, and you're just trying to help, but every time you try to talk, you just do a silly little dance. Yeah, it's a horrible reality for Gumball and for Chiclay and for Aunt Lolly. It's just a horrible reality that they have to face and they had to live for hundreds upon hundreds of years, and it sucks for them. I think it's very serious. It's a very serious tone, and the way that they eventually resolve it with all of the dream stuff and getting to switch places and getting to see all of that, Princess Bubblegum's origin, I think all of it was good. I think the main problem with it that makes it feel not as good as those other arcs with all those different characters was, again, just how rushed it all felt. I mean, Gumball appears in season 9 just for a little bit, and then season 10 is where they just, put a heavy focus on Gumball, but still he doesn't even get that much character stuff until the dream and until later on where Bonnie is explaining Gumball's past with her, but that's just about it. You don't get a whole lot of just build to him actually being a villain, and the one episode where they genuinely start the big fight, it's just them in a dream just living each other's lives, and then it just ends. Gumball gets turned back into the dumb version of himself, and that's all we get for him as a villain, as a character, and I wish we got a lot more. I genuinely do think it would have been better if we had a longer season 10. I don't think Water Park Pranks is the worst episode in the series. The guest animator's artwork for the episode is adorable in my opinion, and reminds me of a storybook. The jokes are funny, and I like how chill the episode is. It's not the best, but definitely doesn't deserve the hate and rating it has. And honestly, that's completely valid. When I rewatch this episode, it's genuinely really funny. The artwork does feel really out of place for Adventure Time, but I mean, it was already known that it was going to have this artwork, and it makes it a very different and unique episode. Nothing really too crazy happens in the episode. It's just a very chill, laid back, like slice of life episode with them going into a water park, dealing with a crying orangutan, getting these sad thing, like sucking sad creatures on them and all that. It's a very relaxed episode, and I think the reason it gets so much hate is because people hate change anything. People like will see a different version of the show and will automatically hate it. For me, I kind of get the same kind of vibe from the episode A Glitch is a Glitch. I hate that episode so much. I don't like it. I don't like the way they're animated. I don't like the way they're drawn. I don't like the scene where the thing is like literally eating its own hair. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one, but Water Park Prank, for what it is, I think it's enjoyable. I think it's fine. I definitely don't think it would be in like my top 100 episodes of the show, but would it be my least favorite episode in the entire series? Probably not. I think it's fine for what it is. It's just a chill episode. I mean, if you're just watching Adventure Time with just your mind off, not expecting this big life lesson, not expecting this big like crazy monster, it's just a fun episode. It's fine for what it is. I don't know why people rated it the lowest possible episode in the entire series. I disliked how Peppermint Butler became a baby in the last episode. It would have been better if they had used another candy person as an example for the lobotomy potion, and I honestly agree with this so much because I think in Distant Lands, the weakest episode out of those 4 is the Peppermint Butler one, where it just basically kills off the entire other Peppermint Butler character in exchange for the same character but a nicer version of him. I didn't like that at all. I loved Peppermint Butler's character so much. I don't care if he was evil. I don't care if he was dark magic incarnate. I don't care if he was Koken Tepe. Whatever it was, I loved it so much. Peppermint Butler was a highlight in every single episode he was in. He was one of the best side characters in the entire series, and then for them to just be all like, let's just completely get rid of that and just replace him with a completely different character that is also the same character, it just didn't make a lot of sense for me, and I wish that it was somebody else because Peppermint Butler has always been one of my favorite characters in the show. So for them to just Make him a baby? Yeah, not a fan of that. I completely agree with you. I hate how Neptune gets treated unfairly by everyone. Started from a machine given life to becoming a punching bag for everyone in the show. And I completely get what you're saying here, but it's just sometimes like, okay, morals, comedy in a television show. Because, yes, do I feel bad for Neptune a lot of the time because of all the things he has to endure? Of course I do, the poor little robot, but at the same time, the jokes because of Neptune suffering is kind of funny. Like, for example, the one episode where Bimo, like, switches place with Football, and Neptune just walks up to him and is like, hey, Bimo, what's up with you? And Football just sees Neptune in the reflection and just beats the shit out of Neptune. I think it's funny. Do I feel bad for it? Yes, and then you also have the episode where they're, like, just looking around for stuff to like go and attack Flame Princess or go to stop Flame Princess to build like a fire to build like an anti-fire suppressant machine, and they just find Neptune, and Neptune's just like, hello creator, you haven't seen me in 3 years, this makes me the ultimate hide and seek champion. I think it's so funny. I think those little gags are great. So like, yes, do I feel bad for Neptune? Of course I do I think it's funny when they just forget about it or just beat it up? Yes, a little bit. It's just a little robot that's a microwave. Of course I'm gonna feel bad for a little bit, but Neptune gets to shine sometimes, so it's like a win-lose-win situation. Hot take 6, the lore with Magic Man and Mars was overshadowed by the other lore episodes. And I mean, a lot of different lore episodes overshadow each other. I think what we did get from Magic Man was actually really good, especially the episode where we get to learn about Margles and how Magic Man built a other version of Margles that was a planetary defense system, and it came from his nightmares. All of that stuff was just so weird and so interesting to watch, and I really do like all the stuff and all the developments that we got for Magic Man's character throughout the series, like swapping places with Betty, all of that stuff with him becoming Normal Man. I think Magic Man has one of the best arcs in the entire show, going from the biggest douchebag, one of the most hated characters in the entire series, to being the ruler of Mars again, and a genuinely interesting character with a very interesting backstory. I wouldn't say it's overshadowed by a lot of things. I think if you're just like looking at it like, oh, there's Fern's lore, oh, there's Simon's lore, nothing is going to top Simon's lore, but then there's Marceline's lore, there's Princess Bubblegum's lore, there's Jake's lore, there's Finn's lore. There's so much lore from so many different characters that of course Magic Man is going to feel a bit off from them, because you have all of the main characters all having their own unique backstories, stories of their parents, stories of their families, all this unique different stuff. Of course, when you're just looking at a guy like Magic Man, who people initially hated in the start of the show, it's going to feel a little bit overshadowed, but what we did get from him, I still think was very enjoyable. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any Adventure Time hot takes that you would like me to discuss in the next video, please make sure to comment them down below. I will check them out and I will put all of the interesting ones in the next video. And remember, I only do 3-part series for these because I don't want to stretch it out and just start rambling on about the same thing over and over again, so it's limited to 3 parts. So if you have something that you're just dying to listen to me talk about, to rant about, to disagree or agree, or whatever it is you want me to talk about, please put it down in the comments below. I'm also going to be doing discussion posts, stuff in my Discord, to get all of your hot takes. So yeah, lots of good stuff on the way. You don't want to miss it. So yeah, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.